Welcome, all distinguished guests, honorable speakers. It's our final session today, but it's equally important and worth the attention. We'll start with a brief context for the topic on this session. So Indonesia has an ambitious target of decarbonization, and several efforts are being carried out, including to maximize the potential of blue sector. In maritime sector, Indonesia is advancing its green shipping and smart port projects. So here we are going to explore the financing alternatives for Indonesia's decarbonization efforts, also to discuss challenges and opportunities in implementing and fostering the green port and smart port. So we are very lucky today. We have two prominent speakers in the audience today, Ibu Nani dan Ibu Mari. Thank you for joining this session. With profound gratitude, we cordially invite our keynote speaker. She is Indonesia's Special Envoy for Global Blended Finance Alliance, Ibu Mari LK Pangestu.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for the diehards who have stayed to the end of the day to come to this session. And I'm sure you're not going to be disappointed because we're going to be talking about something very profoundly important as part of Indonesia's strategy and commitment to address the climate goal of not the temperature of increasing by no more than 1.5 degrees. And it is part of our improved NDCs and, of course, part of our long-term strategy for low carbon and climate resilience development. So, as you know, just a way of background before we talk about the topic of today, you know, Indonesia has come a long way. Indonesia is probably one of the first countries, I think, to really adopt a low carbon and climate resilience development strategy and incorporated it into their long-term development planning, that is by our planning agency. And we do have greenhouse gas emission target reductions inside our planning document. So it's not just the NDCs, but we've integrated it into our planning development, our planning document. And most importantly, the long-term strategy for low carbon development has two very important words in there: low carbon and development. So you want to achieve climate action, lower the carbon emission, but you cannot do it at the cost of growth or development. So how do you achieve those two objectives and take into account the national socio-political circumstances? So in terms of the mitigation strategy, where what we're going to be hearing about later today, just an overall explanation about our mitigation strategy, we have a number of initiatives: energy efficiency, developing new renewable energy, low carbon fuels, use of clean generation technology, and other measures. Yesterday, we had a session on just energy transition, and today we will hear another example of our commitment. But at least with all that we're doing with mitigation, until June 2020, we have been able to reduce emissions of 63 million tons of CO2 from the target of 67.5 million tons of CO2 equivalent. And we plan to reduce 198.27 million tons by 2025 and up to 314 million tons by 2030. And as you know, apart from improving our NDCs, we also have a net zero emission commitment by 2060 or sooner. So what is the role of what we're going to be talking about today? It is about another area where we can have a commitment for reducing our emission. So as you know, all know, I don't know, I see a lot of Indonesian faces, but for the non-Indonesians here, we are an archipelagic country where maritime transportation and ports management play an important role in socio-economic development and connectivity. There are around 3,227 ports all over Indonesia, and around 40% of international trade routes pass through Indonesian waters. So what are we doing? I think the MC mentioned it already, but what we are doing, what Indonesia is doing is fostering green energy for shipping by facilitating access and efficiency to energy and enhance potential investment and innovation in maritime sector to use clean energy. Since 2019, green and smart port certification has been implemented to 27 ports in Indonesia to make sure an efficient and sustainable connectivity. So again, these are the kind of the two key keywords we have today now. You have to be efficient, but you also have to be sustainable. And this is very much in line with the International Maritime Organization target to reduce overall GHG emissions from ships by 30% from 2008 levels by 2030 and 70 to 80% by 2040. The government of Indonesia is committed to accelerate environmental management in ports, and there is a ministerial regulation 57 in 2020 about management of ports, which contains the mandatory for port authorities to ensure and maintain environmental sustainability in the port. The green and smart port criteria in Indonesia is already referred to, referencing the international standards, including Green Port Award System from APEC Port Services Network. And in implementing the Green and Smart Port program, the government of Indonesia focuses on four main aspects, including waste and wastewater management. I think this waste management is very important. I myself, when I was tourism minister, we actually traced where did the waste, a lot of the plastic waste come from. And it turns out that a lot came from ships just throwing their waste in the ocean. And at that time we said, okay, you have to have the waste disposal systems in the ports and of course on the ships themselves. Second, maintaining and rehabilitating mangrove ecosystems surrounding ports. Third, renewable energy management and utilization. And finally, digitalization of port services. Again, this is something when I was Minister of Trade, when we're doing national single window, it was about how do you have efficient ports. Besides having a one port system, of course, digitalization is very important. Decarbonization efforts is being implemented in power and industry sector. Some breakthrough of technologies, including the use of renewables energy and electrification, is being used as to reduce GHG emissions, such as in refineries of oil and gas and in coal-fired power plants. As a country that is located on the Ring of Fire, geothermal power with the total resources of 23 gigawatts becomes important in Indonesia for decarbonizing Indonesia's power and industrial sector. In order to accelerate decarbonization in several sectors in Indonesia, the collaboration and investment from private sector is really quite important. And this is where the mechanism of blended finance, which was acknowledged in the G20 Bali Leaders Declaration, is being implemented through the initiative of G20 Bali Global Blended Finance Alliance. So we do hope that in the case of Indonesia, we are already applying blended finance in the energy transition mechanism. And sources from what it is really about, what is blended finance? It is about combining different sources of funds from government, from sovereign wealth fund, from philanthropies and MDBs, and combining them to crowd in private sector. And PTSMI is the country platform manager in the case of the energy transition mechanism. And it's not just about financing, there's also technical assistance and training to make sure that we can implement the blended finance. So really it is about what we're going to be hearing later is about collaboration and partnership initiatives through state-owned enterprises and private companies. I think we have Pelindo, we have, who else do we have? Is it Sukovindo also? Yes, that's the one I remember, but there's a couple of others. So it is about the collaboration between a number of our state-owned enterprises and private companies so that we can really implement green and smart ports And hopefully, you can also attract blended finance and participate in the contribution for decarbonization towards net zero emission commitments of Indonesia. This is a remarkable opportunity, and we will hear from our very excellent panel of distinguished speakers about what their, so this is not blah, blah, blah. This is actually, I understand, efforts already being done by many of you. So we very much look forward to hearing from you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ibu Mari, for the keynote. To maintain balance between the development and sustainability, especially in maximizing the potential of blue sector, we will need to remember less talk, more action here. Okay, to commence this discussion, I have someone who is more than qualified to lead the session. Ari Sudono Surono currently serves as the President Director ID Survey. Previously, he was the President Director of Dana Reksa Limited and Perusahaan Pengelola Aset TBK or Asset Management Enterprise Limited in Indonesia. He graduated from London Business School and Bandung Institute of Technology. Let's call out for Pak Ari Sudono Surono.
Thank you, MC. Well, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Thanks for coming. I know it's very late in the evening, but I'm sure we're going to be joined by very distinguished experts on the panel. So I'm sure it's going to be worth your time waiting until the end of the session. As the MC said, my name is Ari Surono. I'm the CEO of ID Survey. ID Survey is a state-owned holding company working in the testing, inspection, and certification businesses. And we support the government in the decarbonization efforts through carbon accounting, through carbon validation and verification services. Ladies and gentlemen, to set the context, tonight we'll be talking about collective actions to achieve decarbonization from state-owned enterprises. As Ibu Mari has rightfully pointed out, the collaboration between private companies and state-owned enterprises is very important for us to achieve the NDC target that we have set. And also that we listen from Bu Mari that blended finance is a very important instrument as well for us to be able to accelerate the decarbonization efforts. To set the context, you know that Indonesia emits about 2.8 billion tons of carbon CO2 equivalents until 2030. And we have committed to decrease about 30.9% by 2030. And do you know that 20% of that carbon emission comes from state-owned enterprises? So it's very important for us here to listen to the experts from the state-owned enterprises on what they have done. So this is not only talk, this is what they have actually done to be able to reduce the carbon emissions. And we'll also listen from an international expert from the maritime sector to further expand on what Bu Mari has mentioned about our commitment to reduce the emissions from the maritime sector. So, ladies and gentlemen, tonight we will be having 6 speakers. I would like to invite to the stage the first speaker, Mr. Camille Bourgeon, the Marine Environment Division of the International Maritime Organization. Please join to the stage, Mr. Mr. Bourgeon will be discussing about global action to address GHG emissions from ships. The second speaker we have here is Mr. Prasetyo, who is the Director of Strategy of PT Pelindo, which is the Indonesian state-owned port company. Pak Prasetyo will be talking about decarbonization roadmap through smart and green ports. Our third speaker will be Mr. Muhammad Reza, Director of Business Development and Commercial PT PLN Nusantara Power. He will be talking about advancing decarbonization efforts through new technology development. Our fourth speaker is Mr. Julfi Hadi, President Director of Pertamina Geothermal Energy. Pak Julfi will be talking about evolutionary path to decarbonization. Our fifth speaker is Mr. Yano Andika, Corporate Strategy Unit of PT Bukit Asam. PT Bukit Asam is our state-owned coal mining company. His discussion will be on bioenergy development model. So it's going to be interesting to see how a mining company, or coal mining company, which is by definition a large emitter of carbon, will be able to have decarbonization on its business model. And Our last but not least, we inviting Pak Taufik Aditya Warman, the CEO of PT Kilang Pertamina International, who will be talking about decarbonizing refinery industries. Again, this is going to be very interesting because all the gentlemen here are representing industries that, by definition, are positive emitters of carbon, and they have ideas, they have actions that will be able to actually reduce the carbon emissions that they send to the atmosphere. Okay, so each of the speaker will be given 8 minutes for presentation, and then we'll have about 10 minutes Q&A from the floor, and the presentation will be done through the order that the gentleman actually sits in the stage tonight. So without further ado, I would like to invite Mr. Bourgeon to start his presentation. The floor is yours, Pak. Should I go to the lecture? Up to you. Oh, yeah, please. It's an honor, Bu.
Unfortunately, Bu Mari cannot stay with us until the end of the session, but we need to take a group photo together first before she leaves the site. Otherwise, we will not maintain the gender inclusivity on this occasion. Thank you, Ibu Mari, Ibu Nani, for joining the session. We really appreciate your time being here.
So you want to be here? Yeah, please.
Here is there, right? Yeah. Excellent. Thank you. Can someone perhaps share the slides? Fantastic. Thank you very much. It's a great honor to be with you tonight. Thank you very much for your invitation. I had the pleasure to be speaking at the Indonesian Pavilion in Sharm last year, and it becomes a tradition in a way. I'm very pleased for that. I'd like also to start by congratulating Indonesia for their re-election to the IMO Council, which took place on a Friday. I think we can congratulate this great achievement, which also confirms Indonesia's commitment to IMO's goals, and not only this goal which I'm going to speak about today. So my name is Camille Bourgeon, and I work for the Secretariat of the organization in London, and I deal with reduction of greenhouse gas emissions from the shipping sector. As you may know, let me start. Yes. Oh. Let me start. Whoa, this is going in all directions. All right. IMO is a UN specialized agency based in London, and it's dealing with international shipping, which is essential to the world economy. It is essential to Indonesia. Indonesia is actually very well integrated into the global supply chain, the global maritime supply chain, due also to its unique geographical location. And we have the pleasure to receive IMO's expertise and support in all our committees dealing with a number of issues related to safety, to the efficiency of navigation, and to also reduce the environmental impact of shipping. The specificity of IMO, if I should say in a nutshell, is that we develop mandatory regulations that apply to all the ships. So when we develop an instrument like the MARPOL Convention, dealing with the prevention of pollution from ships, it applies to all the ships trading internationally. And it is quite something, to be honest. There's not many sectors that have, in a way, the chance of being regulated through a global UN agency. I think the IMO and the International Civil Aviation Organization in Montreal may be the two unique examples of that. Okay, I'm getting there. In July this year, IMO member states, including Indonesia, have unanimously adopted the 2023 IMO strategy on reduction of greenhouse gas emissions from ships. Shipping represents almost 3% of global emissions, so it is quite significant. We cannot ignore it. And the member states of the IMO have agreed to further strengthen the GHG ambitions. We had approved a strategy in 2018, but the one that was adopted in July is even more ambitious and contains, in particular, an objective to reach net zero greenhouse gas emissions by international shipping by or around 2050, close to 2050. And we have also agreed on a pathway of emissions reduction with 2030, 2040 targets that really show to the sector where we have to be and how to get there. And this, again, is the global benchmark. It's the global benchmark for shipping everywhere. And I wanted also to stress one point, which is what's happening today, because we have an objective in 2030 with 5% of the energy used by the shipping sector to be zero or near zero fuels and technologies. It may seem not much, 5%, but it's actually very significant. We're talking here about million tons of zero carbon fuels. So there's really a challenge now of sourcing these fuels to the international shipping sector. One of the specificities of shipping as well is that we can use actually quite a wide range of potential fuels, ranging from also different sorts of biofuels to synthetic fuels, can be produced by the electrolysis of water, and it's a very fascinating sector to look into regarding its energy transition. And to support the achievement of these objectives, I'm also agreed on a timeline for the development of measures. Shipping is a business, is a private sector, it's not a charity, and shipping stakeholders have to be profitable. So it's a matter of setting the right commercial conditions and technical conditions for low carbon fuels to be commercially viable. And this is really the number one challenge that we have today. And in order to get to where we have to be, IMO member states are now developing a basket of measures that will comprise of two elements. What we call a technical element is actually a standard. It's a fuel standard. It will set rules with phasing down standards for the GHG intensity of the fuels. And the second aspect is an economic element based on a maritime emissions pricing mechanism. There are a number of proposals on the table on how to levy these revenues and then how to also distribute the revenues with, I think, a convergence towards rewarding those that actually use the low carbon fuels, but also providing finance to those sectors that are actually producing the fuels and the bunkering industry that needs massive investments to produce the volumes of fuel that we need. So this is where we are. We're actually now assessing the potential impacts of these measures on states. And the ambition is to adopt the measures in autumn 2025 with entry into force in 2027. So in the kind of the IMO pace of work, it is extremely fast and it is really tomorrow. So it's great to be here to see that all countries are really embarking into this transition and already now exploring also how they can contribute to this journey. Just one thing about...
Excuse me.
Yes.
Just one more minute.
Sure. I'll skip that one. I wanted to stress one thing. We have a number of technical cooperation, capacity building initiatives that are available for developing countries, seeds and LDCs in particular. And I really would like to encourage all potential benefiters of these services to liaise with me. And I wanted to also stress here, I read that yesterday, to be honest with you, but I found this very interesting in preparing this presentation. There has been work done to look into the potential opportunities for Indonesia to become a nation to provide green marine fuels for international shipping. And due to, in particular, its unique geographical location, huge potential for renewable energy production, Indonesia is really one of the very promising countries for the future bunkering of zero-carbon marine fuels. This will also help attract foreign investment in Indonesia. So I put the link to this study, which I found interesting, and if you are interested and have a bit of time, please have a look. We did an event in October 2022 in the margins of G20 Summit, precisely looking into exploring the opportunities for Indonesia. Some of you may have been there, and I think it's great that this discussion can continue, and we are very happy to support and be with you in this journey. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kamil. Thank you. Very interesting discussion about the potentials in renewable carbon, renewable fuels, and also the offer for us to collaborate together with IMO in terms of technical cooperation and studies. Thank you, Mr. Burjong. So for the next speaker, Pak Prasetyo, Director of Strategy PT Pelindo, the floor is yours, Pak. And apologies if I then remind you about the timing.
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, I would like to present the strategy Pelindo to facing the decarbonization in the future. So, yeah, next. As we know that Pelindo is a state-owned enterprise that focusing on the terminal operator in Indonesia. Since October 2021, Pelindo merged into one company, into one Pelindo. Before we divided into 4 Pelindo, Pelindo 1, 2, 3, and 4. So since October, we merged into one, and we operate 125 ports and terminal in Indonesia in 4 regions, and we have also 4 subholding and 57 subsidiaries. So based on that, our operation in 125 ports and terminal also impact to the carbon emission. So that's why Pelindo also have a strategy, also have the roadmap to achieve the target net zero emission in 2050, aligned with the IMO targets. Yeah. So we divided into 3 phases, our roadmap. Phase 1, 2021 until 2025. The first phase, we already start, and for example, we make the electrification in all of our equipment, but not just in equipment, but also we will make using reducing the fossil fuel in our ship, in our cranes, and all our equipment. And the second phase in 2026 until 2030, we continue our first phase, but we added some new strategy to implement the digitalization, and also implemented the green port strategy. And the last phase in 2031 and until 2035, we still continue the second phase, and we implemented the green alternative energy. So we will reducing more to using the fossil fuel. So at least in 2050, we will achieve the target for the net zero emission. Yeah, as I mentioned before, that in our operation in 125 ports and terminal will impact the carbon emission, the operation of container, the operation of trucking, mobility of the cranes, and also ship services like tugging, pilotage. So it will impact the carbon emission. So next. As I mentioned before, also we already start to implement the program to decarbonization initiative strategies. For example, like implementation the digitalization to facing the future to achieve the smart port. The smart port is different with automation, yeah. But maybe in the future, Pelindo will achieve the automation in several areas. The smart port, it means we implemented the digitalization to reducing the mobility. For example, like we will use the smart cranes. One operator can operate 4 cranes in the yard. So it will reducing the mobility. So hopefully it will reducing the carbon emission. And also we implemented digitalization in terminal operating system. We already have a marine services platform. We already have a terminal operating system. And also we already have a front-end operation platform. And also we controlling the operation in one area with the one operating command control. So we can operate the ports, we can control the ports with, for example, like a different region, different area in Jakarta. For example, like in Jakarta, we can control the operation in the Pontianak ports, in the Lampung ports, and etc. So also the other strategy, we expand the green area in the port ecosystem. We planting the mangrove, but the important thing, not just the planting, but after the planting, how to maintain the mangrove, how to maintain the green area. And not just that, we also make the community have a responsibility to maintain the mangrove area. For example, in Teluk Lamong port is located in Surabaya. We're not just planting the mangrove, but we educate the community to have responsibility on the mangrove area. And we also educate the community to have tourism business based on the ecosystem. Yeah. And the other strategy is provision the energy alternative like solar panel, EV charging and wind farm, LNG bunkering for LNG vessel. As we know that currently many ships change from fossil fuel to LNG, and a lot of shipping company ask Pelindo to provide the LNG for their ship. But we still continue to discuss with PGN to provide the LNG in our port in Tanjung Priok and the other ports in around the Malacca Strait. Okay, thank you, Pak. And also, as Bu Mari mentioned that we also focusing on the waste management. We operate 125 ports. Also, we already get the waste management, so that's why we also focusing on the waste management. And also the strategy to change the fossil fuel to electrification in all of our equipment, and also optimization the port master plan. Integrated port and hinterland is important, because if we can have integration port and hinterland, we can reducing the mobility and also reducing the carbon emission. And also the routine activities, for example, like GSR, environment studies, and monitoring environment report to the local government. Next, this is the example of our strategy to reducing the zero emission, reducing the carbon emission. We, as I mentioned before, in Teluk Lamong, we not just planting the mangrove, but we also maintain the mangrove. We educate the community to also have responsibility the mangrove area. We educate them to have like ecosystem tourism, and also how to maintain the mangrove well. Thank you, Pak. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pak Pras. Thank you. It's very interesting. We listened for 3 phases of zero emission in 2050. There are alternatives like digitalization, alternative energy, and the most important thing, I think, is the involvement of community, and also an integrated thinking and action plan that you've devised. Thank you, Pak Prasetyo. So, for the next speaker, I would like to invite Pak Muhammad Reza. Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Please, go ahead.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Slide, please. Slide, yeah.
Yeah.
So actually, this evening, I will explain about the decarbonization efforts from PLN through new technology, and particularly, we will explain about the development of hydrogen technology utilization within PLN for the effort toward energy transition. So next slide, please. So in this curve, actually, you will see that per today, PLN, or power sector in Indonesia, emits 247 per 2020 million ton of carbon dioxide every year. So if we will do business as usual, in 2060, we will actually emit more than 1 billion carbon dioxide to the atmosphere on annual basis. But basically what we have done, so we have PLN has actually a very clear and an ambitious plan that we will go towards zero emission in 2060. And how we do it, actually, if you see in the gray curve that basically the coal power plants. So we will reduce the number of coal power plants in operation within PLN group. And we will also increase renewables, and therefore we can reduce the carbon dioxide emission. And we will still keep gas power plant, that is the dark blue, but we will co-fire that with hydrogen. And why, next slide please. Why hydrogen? There are actually 3 factors why PLN put like a lot of attention on hydrogen. The first one, we do have renewables, but many of the renewables technology we are using right now, for example, the solar panels or wind power, they are intermittent in nature. So basically they cannot be controlled to generate electricity when we need or when the demand need the electricity. So we actually have done that on the classical power system to fuel fossil fuel power plant, particularly gas, that has a quick response. So hydrogen we see actually as a key to replace gas, so we can still have like power generation from green energy sources, yet we still have like the characters that power plant can generate electricity as we will, because they have to follow the demand. So that is the power sector part. And the second one, actually, Indonesia have a lot of potential for renewables, which are not in the vicinity of the load centers. So by having actually hydrogen as media, we can actually develop renewable energy sources, for example, based on hydropower in different areas in Indonesia. And then we can generate hydrogen with electrolysis and transport that to other parts where we can convert it back to electricity. And the third one is the demand from other sectors. So hydrogen can be used not only for electricity generation, but probably for maritime use as well. And next slide. And we actually have implemented, or we have actually made green hydrogen in Indonesia, in Muara Karang power plant, in one of Nusantara power units. And this is actually the first plant that make green hydrogen. And the interesting part is we have done this in a creative way, I would say, that this generating unit have been actually using hydrogen since several years ago for generator cooling or a cooling system in the plant. And like several months ago, we had an idea to put a rooftop PV or photo solar PV around the power plants, and we basically supply the electrolysis with this green electricity. So by then we are actually managed to generate hydrogen, and at the moment it's quite big. And we copy paste this to other 21 power plants that we have in the PLN group, because many of these power plants already have electrolysis system for cooling, and now we simply, quote unquote, replace the electricity supply with green supply. And next slide. Yeah, we actually hope to utilize this also for a carbon credit. So we, for example, in the same unit in Muara Karang, we have developed a combined cycle generation that can increase the efficiency significantly. And by then, actually, we managed to have this efficiency then trade as a carbon credit in Indonesia. And next slide. Yes, based on that quote-unquote small initiative that we have done in Muara Karang power plant, the lesson learned, we have seen that actually it is not easy, but it's not very difficult in the way that we cannot implement that. So based on that small experience in Muara Karang, actually now we are kicking off an activities or an development joint project with external parties, with Pupuk actually, with Acau and other partners of Indonesia to make like a large-scale hydrogen production using renewables. So we are making a dedicated solar PV and wind turbines to generate hydrogen, and we are using ammonia as a media to transport it. Next slide. Indeed, we will have like more than only PLN to do so. So we are already in discussion with several potential partners, and we are actually open to any one of you that are interested to collaborate with PLN to make this environment or make this green hydrogen business complete, so we can actually run it in a commercial way as well. Next slide. So this is actually the last slide. So yeah, to conclude, we do need some support from different stakeholders. I mean, from the tariff, for the price, for the regulation, and also for the support to PLN effort, with the big pictures, how we can generate hydrogen technically proven, reliable, commercially feasible, and also comply to the regulation. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Pak Muhammad Reza. Thank you. Very interesting, because we just learned that actually PLN is promoting hydrogen, and actually there's already a plant that actually produces hydrogen, which is very new to a lot of us here. And so please connect with Pak Reza on how to collaborate together to actually build new green hydrogen opportunities. Next, the speaker will be Pak Julfi Hadi. Please, Pak, the floor is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, Bapak-Bapak Ibu yang saya hormati. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to talk through my slides. My focus presentation today is on geothermal. As you can see, an evolutionary, what does that mean? Naturally selected to play a critical role, an important role in the transition toward green energy from the present baseload coal energy. Consequently, when geothermal is being developed, geothermal will play a very important role in the decarbonization. So in my very short talk today, I'd like to focus on the why and then the how. Now, geothermal power is evolving into the ideal baseload, indispensable for industrial decarbonization. Why, right? Indonesia is a volcano country. Indonesia is a geothermal country. Indonesia has the biggest reserve of geothermal in the world. Geothermal is the baseload. Geothermal is the only renewable baseload. Now, if you look at our map of Indonesia, you can see the green. That's the two industrialization area of Indonesia. If you can see the blue is the biggest power demand. The biggest power demand, as we all know, is in Sumatra and Java. Now you look at the red. Consequently, when you look at the red, the geothermal resource is also the biggest in Sumatra and Java. What does that mean? It's very hard to think that you will do a transition from baseload coal toward the green without the role strategically of geothermal. Now, if you look at the right side, geothermal is a baseload, right? It can be competitive if you look at the resources apple to apple in delivering a green energy. So that's very critical. Number two, if you look at down, it is humongous in Java and Sumatra. It could support very easily. And at the bottom, not less important, we are moving toward an acceptable ecosystem. The pair price is there, the presidential decree is there in 2022, and it will be reviewed yearly. And the most important, the very bottom part, if you read, now we have carbon credits, we have secondary products, not only to make the project commercial attractive, but this will also decarbonize support the decarbonized target. Now let's talk about Pertamina a little bit. Pertamina dominates geothermal in Indonesia. We're the leading, right? So we have the obligation here to make sure geothermal move forward in speedy manners. If you look at the bottom, we have 13 WKP or projects, which the most largest in Indonesia, 672 megawatts installed. We are second right now, but that's not the important point. We have 700 to 1,000 megawatts upside we are currently having in the country. So if you look at the outlook of PGE, you can see we are implementing an accelerating but realistic outlook because this is resource-based. In 2026, we'll be a 1 gigawatt company that's based on steam already at the wellhead. Yeah, we don't have to drill anymore. And then if you look at that 1 gigawatt, where are we in the world? Us as a PGE, we are the number 5 or number 4 in the world as a nation, right? In 2029, you can see will be a 1.5 gigawatt. This is what our accelerated program, but this is a realistic program, and we need to push this forward. So the message here that we are moving forward, we're flying in 2024, we will start growing our geothermal resources. So what does that mean? As geothermal energy is developing, decarbonization is also there. We will be playing an important role in decarbonization, 5% annually. That's very big for a single company to do a decarbonization. You can look at the graph, the 9.2 million tons of CO2 that we almost yearly save. Not only from geothermal, we have our secondary product, beyond energy we call it. We have the green hydrogen, we have the green methanol. As the presenter here talks today, it's a very critical point of decarbonization and a very critical point of Indonesia. So if you look at the bottom, right, I said realistics, this is emerging, we need to move this forwards. In 2026, setting up the green hydrogen, the green methanol. By 2026-30, we will implementing these projects, and by the later 2031, hopefully we will have a significant role, this green hydrogen, this methanol in decarbonization. I like to focus on this secondary product. So this secondary product, this carbon, this green hydrogen, green methanol is very important for commerciality, attractiveness of the project, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about decarbonization. The message here, number one, like Bu Mari said, we are working on it. In fact, our discussion tonight, we are deploying it. By next year, we will accelerate this green hydrogen. If you have green hydrogen, you have the next one, green methanol. You combine the gas with hydrogen, you become methanol. Okay, we will speed this up. And then silica extraction, as you can see the carbon there in the slide. We've been doing this since 2010. We are pioneering in the IDX, right? So this is a real story, a real projects that we need to be supporting. Now, like I said, we are moving toward an acceptable ecosystem, right? We need to work with the government. Affordability is a challenge. Now, we need to make sure from the IPP, from the association, to give the right message, the right incentive can be done, and not sensitive to the affordability issue that stop. Let's look at quickly. Geothermal energy has single off-taker. We all know that, right? If you look at the bulk, the right de-risking program, we have de-risking program, but we need the right de-risking program infrastructure. But the important point here is that early production. We haven't talked about early production. This is very critical as we have new technology. Before geothermal COD 7 years, 8 years, now we can do it in 3 years. This will change the model of the business, the economics, and different incentives. So this is what we are thinking about. Second, power demand distribution, not less important. I don't know how to say it in words, but sharing of energy at the end of the day is power wheeling, right? This will make a breakthrough in geothermal if we think that geothermal will play a significant role in the transition, right? It can start from the low demand outside Sumatra and Java and the pipeline. We can talk about that. And the third, not less important, geothermal is a resource-based business. In oil and gas, you have many technology different than geothermal. But in the last 2 years, this changed. Now we can COD in 3 years. We have the power plant. We can develop geothermal in a low pressure system, previously not. We can have a lower cost of power plant. This again will change the business model of geothermal. We need to support this. And the last one, in terms of ESG, we are ranked number 3rd. In ESG, we just came out. We need to have support from the finance if we want to accelerate geothermal. So that's all my talk, Pak.
Thank you so
just
much,
like to see this, full steam ahead, the best route renewable for national decarbonization. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pak Muhammad. Thank you, Pak Jovi. It's very interesting because PGE actually contributes to 5% of carbon reduction, PGE alone. So it's very important number. And that, again, your secondary products, green hydrogen, green methanol, is something that can actually be used by other companies in Indonesia to further as an alternative fuel. And you require further support from the government to actually be able to fulfill your desires and goals. Thank you, Pak Jovi. The next speaker will be Pak Yano Andika.
Yeah.
Please, Pak.
From here, Pak.
Sure, go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. I think I am from the most scrutinized sector among other companies here because we're from Bukit Asam and its coal sector in this very place, COP28. But let's talk a small part of what we are trying to do, because I believe decarbonizing coal sector in terms of business transformation is, I think, one of the most complex one. But this one is one small initiative that we are trying to do. Next, please. Yeah. Internally, ladies and gentlemen, we're being reminded again and again in Bukit Asam that aside from the 2060 net zero emission target, it's super milestones. In 2030, we have 32% emission reduction targets. Only 6 years from this year. I'm not sure whether we can really achieve it, but we have to do that. Under the enhanced NDC document, it is 31.89%, one of which it is 15% from the energy sector. So as part of the mining company, we are working on the energy sector. We're trying to balance between how to be sustainable in terms of business as well as how to decarbonize it. Decarbonizing the most, I think, one of the most complex one. So it's actually super challenging for PTBA, for us. But it is more challenging because we also have moral responsibility for the coal-producing regions that we're currently operating in. Most of our operations is in Muara Enim. And if you look at the next slide, please. This is from the Central Bureau of Statistics. About 50 to 70% of the economic structure of the coal-producing regions is from the mining and quarrying, which is coal, actually. This is independently researched by the ISR, not from us, but we can see from this, and it's a statistic numbers, 50 to 70%. Let's talk about we phasing out coal, and how about the economy, the local economy of these coal-producing regions? We have royalty payment, we have tax, non-tax revenues, everything. The development of this country has been financed by the coal all these decades. But what's the other sectors that we can develop in these coal-producing regions? It is only actually two examples, but I think this is the case for all coal-producing regions. Next slide, please. This one, what this defines. This is one of the most interesting things. While we have, or these coal-producing regions have 50 to 70% total GRDP from mining and quarrying, which is coal, at the same time, the government spending of this local government is on operational expenditures. It is for employment and other things that is actually non-investment of how to preparing the next steps of post-coal era. This is something that all of us need to understand, that decarbonizing the energy sector is not enough, but we have to think, what's the replacement of the economic structure of these coal-producing regions? If not, millions lives are at stake. This is something that we need to be remember again and again. And next slide, please. And I will just very quick, I will not go one by one slide, but this study recommends one important thing, that economic diversification of these coal-producing regions is important. With 60 to 70% relies on mining and quarrying, it's not diversified. So we have to work together with local governments, with the central governments, how to make sure once the energy sector decarbonizes, the local economies will not suffer. This is, I think, the one important point that we would like to remind again to the government. Next, please. This is the two scenarios. We have conditional and unconditional. The energy sector is 12.5% under the unconditional one, and 15-point-something% with conditional enhanced NDC. Unconditional means that it is without any international assistance, without any international finance, without any technology transfer, without any capacity building. It is all on us, by ourselves, 31.89%. In only 6 years from 2024 in the coming year. Only in 6 years. Next, please. And this is what we are trying to do. Under this enhanced NDC, the unconditional one, the government actually has already mapped some initiatives in terms of bioenergy, the utilization of bioenergy. It's biofuel, co-firing, and direct utilization of biomass, which is actually also about co-firing. Previously, Bumari has mentioned the initiatives of co-firing to many coal power plants, I think Pak Reza as well. But this is what we see as potentials of replacement, the industry replacement once coal is ended. Next, please. This is the utilization of bioenergy, I believe, under the JETP scenario. The government and the JETP Secretariat has already launched the JETP scenario. I think in this November, we can see the expected increase of biomass utilization up until 2050, although the percentage is fluctuative, but I think the aggregate numbers is increasing up until 34.1%. So it is a potential that we can develop in these coal-producing regions. Next, please. This is only about the biomass manufacturing, the one that we also can utilize in terms of bioenergy and biomass. You can just skip it. Next, please. I think one of the most important things when we talk about bioenergy development is its sustainability aspects. We talk about decarbonization for the better of our Earth, for the better of planet. But when we talk about sustainability of bioenergy, it is somehow our forest is at risk, by converting the already green forest for biomass. I think this is one thing that we need to be very, very careful of. So there are aspects to be very to be considered when it comes to bioenergy development. So we have to make sure that the use of marginal and degraded land is utilized. So here, next slide, please. So in Bukit Asam, we actually trying to use the framework of repurposing the already mined land. It's not a forest, it's a mined land. So once we have done with our mining, so we try to reforest it, rehabilitate it, and we try to make sure that it can be utilized in other sectors. So there are some species actually, but we have a eucalyptus. I think for the calorific value around 4.4 up until 4.6. I think it's the same with the low rank coal. I think it is possible. And then red calandra that we have already started, it's about 4.5 to 6 point something with torrefied mechanism. And why not? It is possible. So this is something that we're trying to do. And next, please. I think this is also the most important one. We have talked about bioenergy, and this is the partnership. Bu Mari Alka previously said about the blended finance, the use of finance to finance the green initiative. This is what we are trying to do right now with the Multilateral Development Bank, with the World Bank, the organization which Bu Mari coming from. So the idea, this is the proposal submitted by the government, by the Ministry of Finance, under 3 pillars, but we are trying to focus on the just transition, repurposing, and mine closure. So it's about governance, people and communities, infrastructure. These are 3 things that are interconnected and the most important one in this partnership model. So how to make sure in the end-to-end supply chain and the business process of this repurposing, the peoples are involved. We hope by this that the local economy will thrive. It's a long way to go, we understand that, but by doing the switching, the pivoting of mindset of how we develop the business, I think it is what we are trying to do with the World Bank right now. Next, please.
1 menit lagi.
Yeah. I think this is the key players that we're doing. And next, please. This is, I think, also mentioned by Bu Mari. We're together with the country platform, that the government has appointed PTSMI as the country platform. And how do we work together with the mining sector, which is us actually as a pilot project. And it is possible to create a special proposed entity. Well, it is actually still in talks, but there is a lot of homeworks that we're trying to solve from the financing structure, whether it's a loan, concessional loan, and grants, and something others that can support this partnership, and the regulation alignment as well, the joint venture model, the government, the local government. This is the most important part that has been neglected for many, many years. How they, using Bapeda, the people and communities finally can involve in the scheme, in this partnership model. I think the last one, the key takeaways of this, the slide, the coal-producing regions are at risk of energy transition, not only us. We are in process of doing business transformation. We can do other sectors. It's hard, of course, but the one that could not leave left behind is the people and communities. This is something that we need to be aware of, how to make sure the economy, the local economy will not decline after we move on, move out of the sectors. And we see the bioenergy roles in the energy pathway under the current GHP scenario. We see the potential rise and the biomass, the partnership model that based on the proposing of the core assets to make sure that we try to make sure its sustainability aspects. And the last one, and the most important one, is the reskilling and upskilling the people and communities in the sector, I mean, in the coal-producing regions. I think this is from us. Hopefully it can enrich the discussion later on that energy transition is not only about the energy itself. There's a lot of things, especially the people and communities that were left behind once at risk of left behind when coal is ended. But we are, of course, support of breathing a cleaner energy. With that, I yield back, Pak. Thank you, Pak.
Thank you so much, Pak Yano. It's very interesting because you highlighted about the importance of balancing between development and GHG reduction and collaboration between communities and the companies itself. So it's very interesting, Pak, to hear. Thank you. And last but not least, Pak Taufik, the CEO of PT Kilang Pertamina International. The floor is yours, Pak.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I would like to explain what our journey in sustainability of refinery and also what we have done so far in terms of emission reduction and to support the net zero emission by 2060 or earlier as part of the government vision and also our Pertamina Group vision and how we do in our refinery. This is the picture of the task to refinery and petrochemical subholding. So we have 6 refineries that manage in the country, and also we have the capacity of oil producing is 1.05 million barrel per day, and the total crude refining in a year is almost 350 million barrels, with source from domestic 30% and we imported 37%. For the purpose of this refining, of course, that's to energize or to provide the fuel for the country, for the people, so that even though that we still have imported the final product by 60% for gasoline because of the all transportation vehicle in Indonesia is most of the fuel is gasoline, but we have self-sufficient in terms of diesel and jet fuel at this moment. So far, what we have done in emission reduction to our plan as Scope 1 and Scope 2, this is 25% emission reduction from business as usual. And we have got the sustainability rating in 2023, 24.2. That is important to have perception of the global market in terms of our ESG and also how we have put the effort into the decarbonization and emission reduction. So how we do that? So please to the next slide. So this is the step that we have been done and also what are going to do until 2030 to meet the 32.4% of refinery emission reduction target from our plant, Scope 1 and Scope 2, mean our plant itself and also how we reduce the energy using in our plant. So at this moment, we have achieved the 3.3 million ton CO2 equivalent, and also in the next 7 years, so we aim to reduce another 1.3 million CO2 equivalent by providing the program that we already set up in our long-term plan and also the annual plan. Next stage. So how we focus to reduce the emission and also how to provide the low emission product as part of the scope 3 of net zero emission target. The first, of course, from energy efficiency. Energy efficiency that we mean is we have to reduce the energy used to refining and refining any barrel of crude oil into the final product by means, the first, minimizing the flare losses, that we recover some energy that currently in flaring, in the past in flaring, so with some reprocessing to our processing unit, and also we utilize the some of the heat of energy for the power. And the second one is substitution of the refining fuel oil that in the past used for power generation by using the electricity from the grid of the PLN, and also the gasification, being the gas is more less emission than the crude oil. And the third one is, of course, for we using the advanced process control to simplify or to minimum process chain in terms of processing. The second one is we started on green business initiative by producing the low sulfur product. Is probably the IMO is concern on the low sulfur marine fuel oil, that for providing the fuel for a fleet in the country as well as for export. And of course, this is to meet the Euro 5 standard, which is 10 ppm of sulfur content. And then we have done also using the carbon neutral fuel by converting some of our refinery in our refinery Cilacap to produce the renewable diesel. Renewable diesel means 100% HPO, 100% diesel. It's probably you may know that the B35, so we produce the renewable diesel 100% of HPO, as well as the SAF to jet fuel bioafter that we have done collaboration with Garuda and other researchers institution to produce 2.4% bioafter from Cilacap. And of course, in the future, we also starting developing the ammonia with the British Petroleum in Bintuni to produce the blue ammonia, and also will develop further for green ammonia in the future. And the third one, in carbon capture utilization, of course we process for capturing carbon dioxide to reduce the emission, and also reprocessing to our plant. And then the last initiative, the third initiative that already massively done in our refinery is nature-based solution. Reforestation, of course, for mangrove is one of the most absorption capability of CO2, as well as the replanting of trees by what we have done for our process plant. The next is probably example that what we have done so far in our refinery Cilacap. So we have in refinery Cilacap is more complex refinery and petrochemical, because we have oil refinery as well as petrochemical plant, and also we have a green refinery plant in Cilacap that producing 3,000 barrel per day HPO, and also 9,000 barrel per day SAF 2.4%. As well as we developing the lube oil based, the existing one in lube oil based one, the ordinary one, and in development process, we will, in current process, we developing for increasing the quality of our fuel to Euro 5, so by diesel hydrotreating unit, as well as the green refinery phase 2, for producing 100% SAF, and also the increased capacity by 6,000 barrel per day, as well as developing the lube oil grade 3 for more efficient and less emission. And this is the example of our plan. There's mangrove, there's external, there's lowering emission of our plan. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Pak Taufik. I think it's very interesting use of technology and product development and diversification and community engagement to actually do the decarbonization. So ladies and gentlemen, I think we're going to come to a Q&A session. Before doing that, I think I just want to summarize. I think we started with how IMO offers technical assistance and that they see that Indonesia is a source of, a huge source of renewable and alternative sources of fuel. And then we come up with, from Pelindo, how collaboration, integrated action, and community involvement can actually help in decarbonization. And right on cue, PLN and Pertamina, GE mentioned about hydrogen and geothermal as a very good sources of alternative fuel that can actually be used for marine industry as well. Then we come up with PTBA to understand how to transition between the existing economic frameworks in the regions, how to balance development and GHG reduction by interestingly repurposing the lands that were being used for mining. And then we come up with KPI on how to use the technology, digitalization, new processes, and product diversification, and as well as community involvement again, and how to become more efficient and more environment friendly. So that's actually a very nice flow of discussion from the panels. Now I would like to open the session to Q&As. Yes, please. Mike, please. Silakan, Bu.
Good evening. Thank you for the time. My name is Chandra. I'm from Ekadin, Energy Academy Indonesia. We are a not-for-profit organization, expert and knowledge hub. We are based in EU and Indonesia, but our activities are for Indonesia. So I have 3 questions. My first question is for Kami and Pak Prasetyo. We talk a lot about hydrogen, and we know that the shipping is a hard-to-abate sector. So I want to tie the two. We had a discussion, focus group discussion with Bappenas earlier this year, and Pelindo was there as well, and we were talking about hydrogen for shipping. So I would like, but I haven't really seen that in your presentation, so I would like to get what are your comments on hydrogen for shipping internationally and also in Indonesia. What is your vision about that? And second, about carbon capture and storage. So we are also working together with Indonesia Carbon Capture and Storage Center. We are running several advocacy and also capacity building programs on carbon capture and storage. And Indonesia is currently having an ambition to be the carbon capture and storage hub in the region. So that is related to pipeline, but also can be related to shipment. So, so this is very question for you, Pak Prasetyo. What is your vision as well on carbon capture and storage related to Pelindo and shipment? And I'm sorry, but I have the third question to Pak Julfi Hadi and also Pak Muhammad Reza. This is related to geothermal. We are a big believer of geothermal because geothermal is, of course, Indonesia is a volcanic country and we have a huge geothermal potential. We are the second biggest, 2.3 gigawatt installed capacity, but there is only 10% of what we have. So that is, we still have 90%, like what we need to do a lot. And Pak Reza mentioned about the need to have a baseload capacity. What if instead of thinking about co-firing with hydrogen, like can we just boost the geothermal? Because you mentioned that geothermal can satisfy 87% of the electricity need in Java, which is the main powerhouse of Indonesia. So that is, what is your vision, both of you, on this? Thank you.
Thank you. Pak Pras?
Yeah, thank you, Bu Chandra. Yeah, as you know that Pelindo is terminal operators, yeah, so we didn't have a ship, yeah. So, but it's okay. In terms of hydrogen in the for the future energy, as I mentioned before, that Pelindo already merged into one Pelindo. We have 4 subholding, and one of subholding is focusing on the non-container terminal, non-container business. Yeah. The 4 subholding is one is focusing on the container business, the second is non-container business, and the third is logistics and hinterland development, and the last is marine services. So in terms of hydrogen, we had the non-container subholding to focusing on the oil and gas services. Yeah. We have a plan to expand our business in the oil and gas terminals. So we have a plan to develop the oil and gas terminal in the area of the Malacca Strait, near the Malacca Strait. So regarding the hydrogen, we also have a plan to transform our storage. Some of our storage can receive the hydrogen in the future, yeah. But currently, some of our storage only receive the crude oil, CPO, and also the others liquid bulk. But in the future, we also are focusing on the hydrogen stevedoring. And also petrochem like methanol, ethanol, and the others renewable energy. One of our development is to have big oil and gas terminal in Riau Archipelago province, and also we provide the oil and gas and also petrochem and also crude oil. But the one we need support from the government is how to make some changes in the tax regulation in oil and gas business. I think Pertamina also facing the problem with the oil and gas for the tax, yeah, tax regulation. Yeah, but we also focusing on the hydrogen business in the future, because some of our shipping company that we serve, they also mentioned about asking Pelindo to provide the renewable energy for example like hydrogen and also LNG. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Pres. Pak Reza, any comments on the hydrogen, or Pak Julfi? On hydrogen, and why don't you focus on geothermal?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Number one is that the biggest bottlenecking is commerciality versus affordability issues in the government of Indonesia. So the solution is, number one, we need to make sure we can socialize correctly the incentive done by the government. The government need to think that we are geothermal countries. If you look at Kenya, Kenya is started later, but accelerated faster than us, including Turkey. Why? Because they think that they are geothermal country and they find the right solutions. Now it's our job, it's the association job. I hope Kadian also can be there to really think about early productions, right? After the well is drilled, you can go straight to the transmission line, power wheeling. Okay, this is very, very important if you want to accelerate geothermal. The second one is the business model, technology. If you see oil and gas, you have enhanced recovery, you have many, many technology, but this is the timing. In the last 2 years, there's been an accelerated in the development of geothermal technology that allow the power plant to COD faster, that allows the well to be enhanced. So this will change the business model. And the third one, I think, if you really want to accelerate, is working together between Pertamina and PLN. So that's the answer. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Mungkin nambah sedikit. Yang
Please, Pak Reza.
Yeah. So thank you for the question. So basically, I think from the administrative part, yeah, Pak, has been explained. So technically, for hydrogen and geothermal. For hydrogen is not the It's basically almost like the media, yeah, the fuel. So actually, if we are using, it doesn't matter, quote unquote, if we are using hydropower plant, geothermal, or solar PV, we can use that renewable energy power plant to generate hydrogen as fuel. So basically, from our perspective, we are more in opportunistic mode. If, let's say, commercially, any renewable power plant can generate hydrogen, because one of the characters of these renewable energy sources are they are not in the vicinity of the demand. So basically, if we can use hydrogen as media, I think it's also open up further opportunities to utilize that energy sources. So we are quite opportunistic approach on that.
Saya tambah Pak, satu detik. Pertamina has pilot project right now. We have challenges in the commerciality, in the legal, and in the technical. That's why we have pilot project. Anyone wants, we are going to deploy this green hydrogen, green methanol next year. Deployment means think big, but we're not going slow. So anyone wants to join us in this pilot project, accelerating this green secondary product, please do so.
Thank you. I think I would love to have more questions and answers, but unfortunately we've run out of time. It's already 8:30, so I think it's good time for us to rest after a long day of work. But I'm sure the panelists here will be happy to take your questions on the side. So with that, I would like to return to the MC. Thank you.